Okay.
But anyways, hey everybody, this is Gabby, the well director, and I'm on here with Debbie Gilbert. Gosh, I don't even know all of your titles anymore, Debbie. You're going to have to rattle those off. All I say is that you're in counseling.
I'm in
So much
counseling.
more than that.
Yeah. I guess licensure as far as licensure goes, I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor slash supervisor. And I have a master's in marriage and family therapy and very close to having my PhD in counseling education and supervision.
Yes, which
So
is incredible. So you stay busy.
I
Um,
stay busy.
yeah, so thank you for giving me a little bit of your time and all of us watching a little bit of your time. But I just wanted to hop on here with you because I wanted to know, as a counselor, your perspective on what's going on in our world right now with the pandemic, the craziness of all of that, kind of how that's affecting you, your business, just counseling in general right now, and then also just some practical good ways that people can deal with anxiety and depression during this time, or maybe their kids are experiencing that and how they can help their kids through that. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to know just your perspective in general and some practical tools that we can take.
Well, my perspective in general is all throughout history, there are disruptions in life, and they can be very small, from somebody popping into your office that you didn't expect, to news of a car accident or the death of someone or an engagement of someone, uh, to the worst of the worst things, which seem to be where we're at now, where it doesn't just affect an individual, but it's literally affected everybody on the planet. And so I think one of the first things to remember is there is nothing new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can think about things like that, and we can understand that um, things come, and in the moment of it, it seems extreme or hard and even sometimes joyous, that all things usually pass. And there comes back to what we know as a homeostasis, or a leveling of, what's going on. So I think the first thing for all of us to remember is that there's nothing new under the sun, and nothing has changed about God and who He is. And, things about our life are changing. This is truly going to be an event that, after the dust all settles from it, things are going to be different in a lot of ways, from technology to the way we manage health globally. And so things will be different, and some things will return to normal and some things won't. But I think if we're going to maintain sanity through the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
is just to understand that there is nothing new under the sun, and all things will pass and come back to a degree of some sort of normalcy at some time. Anxiety, how's it affected my business? Of course, we were set up prior to this happening in our company to do telemental health. So we had done some of that. And currently that's all we're doing. So if you need counseling, we greatly encourage you to seek counseling. Um, a lot of people have some fears that it may not be safe because you're sharing some details of your heart that you may feel like could end up in the cloud somewhere and somebody get hold of it. And I understand the fear of that.
Mm-hmm.
But most counseling platforms are done on a HIPAA approved platform. And so, that would be a question to ask: is your platform protected? Of course, a secure one. And that's usually most mental health places or doctors' places have that. So that's just some questions you can ask. So it looks different, but once you get started with doing counseling online, it's very similar to sitting face to face. It's just like you and I talking. It's you're sitting in your space, I'm in mine, but we're having conversation real time, just like we would be face to face if you were here in the office. So our business is down probably 66% right now. And so that affects, counselors because you get paid for counseling. But other than that, just working through those kinds of things, with people feeling comfortable with what they're doing is the main thing.
Yeah, and I think it's great for everyone to know that that is a possibility that through this time, for whoever, we don't know how long it's going to be, it's great to know that they can still reach out and get counseling. It looks different, of course, as you said, but that is still something that is a tool that you can use.
Well, Gabby, too, we've encouraged this in the past, even with some people, because when you live in a rural area, and we're considered really a rural area when it comes to mental health providers, so there's not a lot of counselors. And so even on the outskirts of our county you live in, there's counties around us that are even more rural. And so the great thing about doing online counseling, even on a good day when everybody's well, is that you can get exactly what you need so long as you feel like you have a private space to do this in. And it cuts down all the travel time. And so for those people who, let's say if you teach school in a county away and you need to come after school, well, our counselors in their work usually no later than 5. And so if they're getting out of school at 3:30 or getting ready to leave, it's almost impossible for people to get services that they need. So with this, it helps to save that drive time. And then when you're over, you just walk into the other room with your family or wherever you're at, and you're there with your kids to spend time. So it's just a great opportunity for a lot of people to be better served when you come to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some practical things? Obviously, we know just from a biblical and a faith standpoint, about anxiety and fear and depression and how God helps with that, can help us, prayer, all of those things. But what would you say are some practical tools that people can utilize during this time if they're experiencing any of those things, or perhaps if their kids or spouses are maybe experiencing those things? How can they help?
Okay. Here's one thing that I'm doing with almost every single client right now. And you can do this as an adult, and you can also do this with your children. And this is from a faith perspective. This point is, I would encourage anyone to sit down and do a timeline, just draw a timeline of the year they were born until today, okay? And go back, your concrete memory is going to take place at about 7 years old. Now, some people can remember some things that happened before 7. I can remember something, little things. Lots of times your memories attach somewhat to photographs or what somebody's told you, but concrete memory, they say, is really about 7. If there's been trauma, you can have some earlier memories. But take a timeline and go through there and start writing down just a little note above the date about something you were going through that you felt like was hard at the time. If it was elementary school, I cried every day for my mom, okay? If it was 2nd grade, I felt isolated from friends because blah, blah, blah. They didn't share their doll with me. In junior high, I didn't get to go to the prom because my mom was so strict, to the junior high prom or something. But you go through and you begin to write things that you felt like at the time were hard or hurtful or challenging. You can talk about everything from a miscarriage to losing a parent to um, uh, getting into addiction to, I mean, you can just name it, you know, broke my leg. And then as you've done that timeline, begin to think about what the lessons you learned were from that experience. What were lessons learned? And then as you begin to look, ask your questions about that, you ask, and so did God bring me on through that? And you go to the next thing. And so, and he brought me through this. And so what you begin to mark then is the faithfulness of God. Okay. So that was hard and I got through that. And that was hard. I thought I was going to die and I got through that. And here's what I learned. And so as you do a timeline of your life, talking about really moments of suffering, you will find that you've been refined through the process. And that goes to 1 Peter 1, 6 and 7. Though for a little while, if need be, I will allow you to go through suffering. It will feel like you're being tried by fire. Okay, so it's going to hurt bad. But it's for the perfecting of your faith, which is more precious to me than gold. And so you, if you will begin to work this timeline, and you can show little children how, what was hard for you, you know, and how did you get through that, and what did you learn from that? And so today, here's where we're at on the timeline. What are we learning from this? And has God been faithful up till today? You know, and so I think one of the greatest ways to address your anxiety is to look back and to understand that God is faithful. He's faithful through everything.